Well, welcome to the 700 Club. Israel observes its 76th Independence Day in the middle of a war for its survival. The IDF is engaged in close combat with Hamas in eastern Rafah, and troops are poised for a full-scale invasion.
Well, reports are now surfacing that the Biden administration has been holding back intelligence on the location of key Hamas leaders, including Sinwar. CBN's George Thomas reports.
Israel's 76th Independence Day ceremonies were mixed with grief and sorrow this year as war rages on and the fate of the hostages in Gaza remain unknown.
The State of Israel was not there on October 7th in full force and power as we all expected, but since then it has been working every day to return you home to your family.
Israeli troops meanwhile pushing deeper into eastern Rafah, dismantling Hamas infrastructure. IDF soldiers said to be engaged in close quarters combat with the group's terror fighters. The U.S. believes Israel has enough troops deployed outside the city to launch a full ground invasion. Further north, in Jabalia, a steady stream of people continued to pour out of the city as IDF forces re-engaged Hamas fighters there.
We escaped from the shelling and missile attacks. We couldn't bear all this, so we ran out.
There's evidence that despite Israel's efforts to eliminate Hamas from northern Gaza, that fighters are regrouping in areas once cleared out. U.S. officials now doubt whether Israel can achieve total victory in Gaza and are warning they could face a resurgent terror group.
Israel's on the trajectory potentially to inherit an insurgency with many armed Hamas left, or if it leaves, a vacuum filled by chaos, filled by anarchy, and probably refilled by Hamas.
In Rafah, the UN says more than 450,000 Gazans have fled the city for safe zones as Israel potentially prepares a full-scale invasion of Hamas's last stronghold. The Biden administration, still trying to prevent such an operation inside Rafah, reportedly has withheld critical intelligence regarding the location of Hamas leaders, including Yahya Sinwar, the architect of the October 7th attacks. The release only coming if the Israelis agree to a limited and targeted operation in the southern Gaza city.
This is part of a trend and a pattern. The Biden administration has been trying to control this conflict from day one, whether it escalates or not, how many days, who goes where, who does what. This is not the best course of action. We help our allies against our enemies. That's how it should be.
The Washington Post reporting that U.S. intelligence even contains the precise location of the group's terror tunnels.
So if this is the case, and we know where Sinwar is, and we know how the tunnels look like, so what are we as the United States government waiting for?
The White House denies it withheld such intelligence. George Thomas, CBN News.
It's inconceivable to me that we would withhold intelligence on the location of the key Hamas commanders, particularly Yahya Sinwar. If his location was disclosed to the IDF, they would move quickly and they wouldn't hesitate. He is a murderous thug. He should have never been released from Israeli prison. In his history, why he ended up in an Israeli prison is he killed 4 Palestinians. He murdered them because they dared to do business with Israelis. He said, this is unacceptable to us. You cannot do business with them. You can't have any relations with the Israeli Jews. You can't even associate with them, and if you do, I'm going to kill you. That's why he was in jail. He spent 20 years there. He got released, and now he's turned into this murderous terrorist who planned October 7th. If you care about the citizens of Gaza, if you care about anyone living in that war zone, the elimination of Hamas has to be your #1 goal. If Yahya Sinwar is eliminated, if he is attacked by the IDF and he no longer poses a threat to Israel, well, then the war ends. Now, is there going to be an insurgency? Probably. The ideology of Hamas is going to survive this. Is there going to be an incredible need for an international coalition to come in and establish a new government for Gaza? The answer is absolutely yes. But until Hamas, their leadership, those responsible for October 7th, are eliminated, Israel has no choice. The reason is they vowed to do it again and again and again until Israel doesn't exist. When will we say to our allies, you can trust us, we've got your back, we're going to stand with you? To withhold this kind of intelligence, I find it absolutely incredible. Well, the threat of an armed gunman stopped a service at a Louisiana church this past weekend. A 16-year-old with a weapon disrupted the first communion service at St. Mary Magdalene Catholic Church in Abbeville. The suspect never appears on camera, but you can see people get up from their seats as clergy crouch behind the altar. Parishioners confronted the gunman, called police. He's now undergoing a mental health evaluation. This is just days after a man at a Pennsylvania church pointed a gun at the pastor during the service. The increase in violence is causing church leaders to rethink safety issues. The federal government recently approved $400 million in funds for security at houses of worship. Well, we fixed our microphone problems in Washington. So, John, back to you.
Gordon, great job there. Thanks for filling in. Well, the violence at anti-Israel protests on college campuses has some asking how to restore civility in America. The new leader, Promise Keepers, believes he has an answer. Shane Winning says the ministry can reach young men in great numbers by returning to its roots. CBN's Gary Lane has more.
Recently, the country has seen thousands of college students march in pro-Palestinian protests, many of which have turned into vehicles for hate and anti-Semitism.
What we're seeing is a generation of people who are being shaped and molded by the world because of the things they see on social media. And so you see these worldly examples of people who are rising up, and they demonstrate worldly masculinity, which is perverted in many senses, which is more about dominion, and it's less about godly characteristics.
Evangelist Shane Winnings, a former law enforcement officer, now leads the ministry founded by former University of Colorado coach Bill McCartney. Now in its 34th year, Promise Keepers seeks to transform men through faith in Jesus Christ. How do we help young men become courageous, to be men of integrity, especially if they haven't been taught that respect, integrity at home?
Yeah, we need to be the voice of that movement, of the movement of integrity and purity and godly truth, and also be the example.
Winnings believes today's young men need role models, something he found in Jesus and by serving in Afghanistan with the U.S. Army's Special Forces.
When you're around people who are great, it makes you want to be great. And at that level, mistakes can cost human lives. The sobering reality that life, is short. It's a wisp of vapor, the Bible says. Tomorrow is not promised. And so that really fuels my charge as I lead this organization, is that we can't count on tomorrow. We need to impact the men of our nation and our world today.
One way Winnings is moving Promise Keepers forward is by returning to a successful formula from the past.
Promise Keepers is known and remembered for these big, men's conferences in stadiums and arenas around the country. And we're going back to our roots in that sense.
A conference featuring Charlie Kirk of Turning Point USA is scheduled for this summer in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Does that mean Promise Keepers is becoming a bit more political?
Yeah, that's a great question. Absolutely not. We have we've platformed athletes, we've platformed people from so many different spheres of influence. I believe Charlie has been extremely effective at reaching this generation with truth. He is a Bible-believing Christian, and he reaches this generation in a way that many people don't.
A legacy that Winnings believes Promise Keepers can continue by reaching this new generation for Jesus Christ. Gary Lane, CBN News.
Thanks, Gary. Turning now to South America and the historic floods that are devastating southern Brazil. In the state of Rio Grande do Sul, officials report at least 143 people have died, more than 800 are wounded, and another 125 missing. In all, 2 weeks of heavy rain have affected more than 2 million people in nearly 450 cities and towns. More than 600,000 people are displaced from their homes. A team from CBN's Operation Blessing is on the ground working with local churches to provide food and other essentials.
Of horrific floods that have affected the southern part of Brazil in Rio Grande do Sul, to be specific. Hundreds of Brazilians have teamed up to support each other. And in this church of Asunción, the volunteers have teamed up to start cooking and preparing meals for their brothers and sisters in the affected communities. Operation Blessing is now supporting this kitchen and their efforts. And as you can see behind me, the chefs are preparing meals, warm meals that will go to the families that are not only living at home in precarious situations, but also in shelters.
The team has provided at least 3,000 meals so far. Operation Blessing is also making available chlorine and distributing hygiene and cleaning kits to disinfect water and help people clean up their homes. A medical team is providing care to people in shelters and distributing medicines. Meanwhile, the rains keep falling and Operation Blessing Gordon is prepared to continue its activities in the days ahead.
Well, this is a story you may not have seen in the headlines, but the devastation in southern Brazil is just devastation. There isn't another word for it. If this were to happen in the United States, it would definitely be an emergency, and we'd be talking about emergency teams. It's just amazing that how many disasters are happening in the world today. And whether it's tornadoes in our Midwest, flooding in Houston, or what you just saw in Brazil, the earthquakes that people are still digging out of in Turkey, we want to be there for them, and we want to be there for them in your name. If you want to be a part of the Operation Blessing disaster relief, all you have to do is call us and say, yes, I want to give. I want to be a part of helping people. Our motto is, when disasters strike, we want to strike back with love and compassion and very tangible help in their time of need. If you want to be a part of that, give us a call. Say, I want to give to the Operation Blessing Disaster Relief Fund. You can write to us. Just put Disaster Relief Fund in the memo line of a check. You can call us, or you can go to CBN.com. There's a place on the giving page where you can designate your gift to disaster relief. There's also OBDR, which stands for Operation Blessing Disaster Relief. OBDR, text those letters to 71777. We'll send you a link back to a giving page. Either way, do it now. Let's be there for people in need.